So we are at the John Jarvie Ranch here in Utah. Not on the main road.
I only had one, it said 45.
John Jarvie was a Scotsman who came to Browns Park to start a business. He settled along the Green River in 1880. He married Nellie Barr, and together they had 4 boys, each 2 years apart. Nellie passed away from tuberculosis when the youngest was only 8 years old. This left John to raise the boys all on his own. Being a well-educated man, John loved to read. He was an accomplished musician and often entertained travelers and drifters as they passed through the park. Located along the Green River in eastern Utah, the Jarvie property had been used for many years by Indians, fur trappers, and travelers. John Jarvie specifically chose this site along the river because of its naturally occurring river crossing. He believed it would be an excellent spot to establish his business. On the property, John ran a general store, trading post, post office, and river ferry. There is also a cemetery adjacent to the site. The Stone Cabin. John Jarvie commissioned the outlaw Jack Bennett to build this stone cabin for an extra storage space. Jack learned masonry skills while he was in prison. The cabin is built out of a local soft tuff obtained from the hills to the east of the ranch. Jack Bennett was the only man ever hung in Browns Park. Interestingly, the pole from which he was hung is now displayed within the cabin. For more information about the ranch, you should visit the site and watch the short video located inside this cabin. Store and cabin. Jarvie's store was the only outpost within 70 miles. The store was built in 1881 out of railroad ties that floated down the river from Green River City. The store operated from 1881 to 1909. In February of 1881, Jarvie took over the postmaster of Browns Park. Mail traveled from many cities including Vernal, Green River City, and Rock Springs, Wyoming before arriving at the store. The post office operated for 6 years before Jarvie quit upon being asked to investigate a postmaster in Vernal who was suspected of money order fraud. The current store and cabin was reconstructed in 1986. The dugout. The dugout was built in 1880 by Englishman Bill Lawrence. Jarvie and his new bride Nell lived in the dugout while the store and cabin were being built. The original door was fashioned out of single piece of a tree trunk. The following year, Jarvie and Nell moved into the 3 room log cabin to the east of the dugout, and the dugout was used for storage. In later years, the dugout served as a hideout for Browns Park outlaws, including members of the Wild Bunch. The water wheel. The original water wheel was 16 feet high and 4 feet wide with 16 paddles. Buckets were constructed of 8-inch stovepipe with wooden plugs nailed to the bottom. Jarvie used the water wheel to irrigate his garden and the field to the east of the parking lot.
More operational before when there was water exit coming on. Cool though.
But last year with the river flooding, it was probably moving.
Picture of the neighbors.
The Corral. The Corral was constructed of railroad ties that were retrieved from the Green River. According to the Outlaw and Bassett, a prospector who went by the name of Miner may be buried in the Corral. The farm equipment was donated by Bill Allen and his family. The Allens used the equipment to farm in the Browns Park area and owned the Jarvie Ranch from 1942 through 1968. The graves. 4 people are buried on a hill north of Jarvie Ranch. The first grave is thought to be of that of H.M. Hook, the first mayor of Cheyenne, who drowned when floating down the Green River on a mining expedition. The second is a young boy, only known as Robinson. Robinson was killed by Jesse Ewing. Another grave belongs to a man named Young, who also drowned in the Green River. The last grave belongs to Jesse Ewing himself. Ewing was a prospector who lived up in Jesse Ewing Canyon to the north and east of the ranch. Ewing frequently swindled investors in his mining claims, which never turned a profit. Ewing courted a woman from the red light district of Rock Springs, who after a period of time became more interested in Ewing's partner, Frank Duncan. Duncan and the Madame plotted against Ewing, with Duncan shooting Ewing before running away with the Madame in the end. The shed. Jarvie also constructed the sheds on the property. One of the sheds is still on display today. John Jarvie distilled his own liquor and sold it in his store. His distillery drew the attention of the sheriff in Vernal. Jarvie was accused of selling liquor without a license. When the jury at his trial sampled Jarvie's moonshine, they decided it was gut rot, not whiskey, and Jarvie was found not guilty. The ice house was used to store the ice that was cut out of the Green River during the winter. They typically cut these pieces into 14 by 36-inch blocks, and the ice was kept cold with sawdust. On Tuesday, July 6, 1909, John was robbed, murdered, and his store ransacked by 2 workers from Rock Springs, Wyoming. After they killed him, they placed his body on a boat and pushed it into the Green River. Sadly, his murderers were never captured. John's body was discovered 8 days later, 25 miles down the mighty river. He is now buried in Lador Cemetery. This land and its history still leads many people to the Jarvie Ranch today. It's only fitting that this video has a tribute from John Jarvie's own words. Words from the tribute that Jarvie had made to his longtime friend, Mrs. Mary Krause, when she died in 1904. Here, in this world where life and death are equal kings, all should be brave enough to meet what all have met. From the wondrous tree of life, the buds and blossoms fall with ripened fruit, and in the common bed of earth patriarchs and babes sleep side by side. It may be death gives all there is of worth to life. If those who press and strain against our hearts could never die, perhaps that love would wither from the earth. Maybe a common faith treads from out the past between our hearts the weeds of selfishness, and I should rather live and love where death is king than have eternal life where love is not. Another life is not, unless we know and love again the ones who love us here. The largest and nobler faith in all that is and is to be tells us that death, even at its worst, is only perfect rest. We have no fear. We all are children of the same mother, and the same fate awaits us all. We, too, have our religion, and it is this: help for the living, hope for the dead. These words spoken by Mr. Jarvie not only give an idea of his own nature, but they are especially appropriate in his own ending.